Hello YouTubers. Well, I am back here at my saw workbench once again working on another project saw. Something that I want to putter with or tinker on or whatever you want to call it. Continuing on here with my saw hobby as always. Just thought I'd bring you folks along here for what's going to be a Husqvarna 357 XP build. This was another one of those junk pile saws, saw in a box, saw in a bucket, whatever you want to call it. Pretty much is how it came home. All the outer chassis of the saw, the fuel tank, top covers, the recoil, side cover, everything is overall the physical chassis of the saw is in decent shape. It's not mint by any means. It's faded and it's got scratches and nicks all over. It was a work saw, a well-used work saw. It's not all busted and broken up though. That's the one thing I will say for it. It's pretty much 99% complete. But this saw has a hurt top end on it. By that I mean what I was told was the muffler got badly damaged on it. Mishap that did happen. I think they broke the brake handle on it, and the chain brake handle, and the muffler got squashed. The top cover survived unscathed. Don't know what they did. They dropped something on it. But anyways, in their search for finding parts, from what I was told, they found a friend of a friend that had a wrecked used saw with a supposedly good used muffler. So they got it, put it on, not realizing that it was a saw that had been sitting around for years with a rusty muffler. Put it on this saw, ran it a little bit, and then couldn't figure out why it wouldn't run proper. Well, I guess they scored up the piston because they sucked a bunch of rust from the old dirty muffler into the front of this thing. Well, that's what happens with two strokes. They're a push-pull pulsing motor, and sucked a bunch of rust from the muffler into the front of the piston, and scored up the piston and the cylinder a little bit. Now, not excessive. I've already had the top end off on here. I cleaned up the piston. They put a new piston ring in it, but didn't bother to clean the piston, and the guy said he gave up on it. I guess he just didn't want to fool with it anymore. Decided that he wasn't going to bother with it. So far as I know, the saw never got run after that incident. So it does have apparently a new caber ring. Like I say, I went ahead and pulled the cylinder off, and I took a little bit of extra fine emery cloth and cleaned up the little bit of it was a weird, the piston had scuffing on it, but it wasn't excessive, not deep grooves, just a whole bunch of fine little bit of well, scratch marks, and it put some aluminum transfer onto the cylinder. Now I cleaned up the aluminum transfer off the cylinder walls, but unfortunately on the upper part of the combustion chamber just above the exhaust port, there's a whole bunch of little fine scratch marks in the cylinder itself. Like I say, I went ahead and cleaned the transfer off, but they're in there. You can, if you run your fingernail on the inside of the cylinder, you can feel it. But there's no up and down roughness that way, because it, like I say, it just made there's like half a dozen fine, and they're very fine little lines. They're not big gouges or anything. It's not through the plating, although I'm sure it's pretty thin at that where it scuffed it up. So even with all that said, before I cleaned it up, this does have excellent compression, really good compression. So this is this cylinder on here that's supposed to be original to the saw. I think this is an 03-04 model. This one already had the updated cylinder. What I mean is they didn't have the auto decomp on the side over here. This one has the standard decomp button on it. Some of these, the first year or two productions of the 357 XPs had a goofy auto decomp with a feedback over here into the back side of the cylinder. This one does not have that, which is too bad, because the rest of the cylinder is in really nice shape, except, like I say, for those little scratch marks on the front. Could I go ahead and put a new meteor piston in it? Yep, I could. But right now the piston actually other than the little bit of damage in the front, it still has the machining marks almost all the way around, except for a tiny little bit at the back edge on the skirt of the piston where it's got a little bit of wear. But actually, considering for all the use this saw has had, it's that part of it is in pretty good shape. Now this is a OEM Molly cylinder, or Mall cylinder, whatever you want to call it, and it is a OEM factory piston. A couple of the negatives on this saw. When I was taking it apart here, I noticed I was looking, as typical with all of these saws from that era, they use these plastic clamps on the intake here, on the intake boot. The intake boot is nice and soft and pliable, yet somebody must have changed it at one point, I guess. But they never changed this partition wall or the clamp here. It still has this stupid plastic snap clamp, which is actually loose, and it was moving around on the cylinder. So lucky they didn't run it anymore. They would have completely burnt it up. But like I say, damage on the piston is not from a lean run condition. It was from rust. I can tell, because like I say, when I took the muffler off, it's all full of rust inside, and there was loose crap coming out of there. So that was the issue. But you can convert these. You can take your die grinder and cut this the ears or the tabs off this snap clamp, and use an actual regular clamp, a regular intake boot clamp from like a 390 XP, which will fit right over this, and it's a screw type clamp that'll clamp down, and that's probably what I'm going to do with this. And I'll show you the process. I've done it before, and I'll do it on this one. One thing that I was disappointed when I got into taking it apart, I was looking a little bit closer, and I realized this is not a Walbro carb, and it's not even a Zama. I think they mentioned, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've picked up this saw, they put a quote-unquote brand new carburetor on. Well, it's one of these cheap marked no-name brand Chinese carburetors. They thought they were really doing something, because I guess, you know, like everything, then they figured they're replacing parts and putting new on there, it's going to run better, or was going to make it run better. Well, I don't have much faith that this carburetor is much any good. I don't know, maybe it's fine, but I highly doubt it. I don't, everybody I know that's tried running these Chinese carbs hasn't had much luck, so I'm probably going to go ahead and pilfer through my parts collection. I do have a few of these carcasses in Johnson Red and Husqvarna colors, so, and I know I've got a couple of Walbro carbs that I can dig up and rebuild. I'll put a kit in, and I do have kits for these saws, so I'll go ahead and probably swap that out. I'll give that carb a try, but I don't have much faith in those aftermarket Chinese import carbs. So, but anyways, I went ahead and like I say, I had the cylinder off. I cleaned up the piston, and I sat the cylinder back on and tightened it down, because I wanted to check my squish band. I'm going to be doing a gasket delete on here, and I wanted to see what my top of piston to top of combustion chamber clearance is. And metal on metal with no gasket and tightened down, I'm at exactly 25 thousandths of an inch. So with a couple thousandths of an inch of some Moto Seal gasket sealer there, that'll, without the paper gasket, that'll probably put me, like I say, right in the, well, in that 26-27,000 range. So that should make a good work saw. Am I just going to put it back together without doing anything to it other than leaving it stock? I thought about it, but no, I kind of want to play with it. I have a stock version of this in the Johnson Red colors, and I have a 2156. I've been running that saw in stock form the way it is, pretty much, with no modifications, and I love the saw. It's a great little saw. But this is kind of one of those got nothing to lose type of situation, where the cylinder already has a tiny bit of damage. The piston has some damage on it, but like I say, it's not horrible. It'll still run perfectly fine the way it is. It's got good compression as it is. I'm going to go ahead and pull the cylinder back off, and then I'm going to go ahead and polish out my exhaust port, get a little bit of carbon cleaned up out of there, and try and put pretty much a mirror finish on it like I do. And then I'm going to texture my intake port like I do on most saws now. Kind of try and get a little better atomization of the fuel. And I might tinker a little bit with the lower transfer ports on this one. I don't have the tooling to do upper transfer port work. You can really wake these saws up by doing that, I know. You can also do timing advance on them, although on the 357s it doesn't have as much of an effect as it does on the 359s. I still haven't showed that project yet. I did a 359. I did all the lower transfers, opened them up because they have the removable outer transfer caps. They're easy to work on those with a basic die grinder. You don't need any special tools. I was able to do a lot of lower port work, and like I say, texturing of my intake and polishing out the exhaust, and I did a timing advance on that saw, and it really woke it up. Anyways, I will do some videos on that at some point, but right now I want to work on this one, and I'm gonna do my YouTube series type of thing here on building this saw up from scratch. The bottom end, as far as I know, is okay on this saw. Should I put new seals in it? Yes, I should. Bearings are good. Both sides are nice and smooth. It rolls over nice and smooth. The rod bearings are in good shape. They're nice and smooth and tight. They're, well, I mean, not tight, but well, you know what I mean. They're in good shape anyway, so there's no issues there. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to try it. We're going to run it that way. If there is an issue, not a big deal. You can always pull the flywheel off, change the flywheel side seal. Not a big deal to pull the clutch off and the oil pump and change the oil pump sides on the clutch side seal. So show you here what the plan is. This one I think I'm going to get a little bit adventuresome. Going to step out of my comfort zone a little bit here, and I'm going to try something different I've never tried before. Not going to do a whole bunch of, like I say, I don't have the tooling to do on this one. I don't have the tooling to do a bunch of port work, but I'm just going to tickle the lower transfers a little bit where they up in out of the crankcase. They have a bit of a restriction, or what I feel is a bit of a block there. I'm going to taper the intake edges a bit to get a little bit better flow up through into the transfers. But what I want to do on this one, or what I'm going to try, and like I say, it's kind of a got nothing to lose situation. I'm going to try a little bit of piston port. I'm going to take and trim the bottom back edge of the piston skirt a little bit to get a little bit more intake timing to a little sooner. Try and pull more charge in through the transfer ports to push more charge into the combustion chamber to give it that little bit more extra snap. So it's a way of not having to do a whole bunch of cylinder porting. It's kind of the cheap and easy way. Years back a lot of guys did that, and apparently it worked very well, and you can get almost pretty much the same results without having to do a whole bunch of grinding in your transfer ports. Now whether or not that'll hold true, I don't know, but sometimes less is more, and just little things can go a long ways into making a saw run great. Do I want to make this thing totally, crazy type of thing? No, I want it to be a reliable, stable running work saw. Just a good firewood saw, or for topping in a logging site, for, well, just general all-around work. You want a saw that starts easy, runs stable, takes a tune, holds a tune. You don't want cranky saws that are hard to deal with, plain and simple. That's not my world, what I do. Maybe some people like that for get-togethers or cookie cutting races and stuff like that. That's fine. If you want to make a race saw, go ahead. But I know some guys out there are building some really strong work saws, and they do all kinds of machine work and base cutting and upper cylinder chamber machine work, and go to town grinding away and doing all kinds of porting and trying all kinds of stuff. And yeah, I mean, they build impressive saws. And no, I'm not that guy. Anyways, gonna get on with it here. So.